All right, good morning, everybody. This is Thursday morning's edition of Ask the Master Auto Technician. And every Thursday morning, if I'm lucky, I get Rob Lapham call all the way from not Port St. Joe, from Port St. Joe area in the other time zone, in a galaxy far, far away, just about 35 miles away. Anyway, good morning, Rob. How we doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, James. How are you?
I'm doing very well, sir. I can hear you extremely well this morning. I hope you can hear me a little bit better. I know we've been having troubles lately, but on the reception. But tell me what is on your mind, because I know today someone's telling me that the president's supposed to be able to get on everyone's cell phone and make announcements today. And I want to know, I don't know if that's real or not, but it kind of sounds like I don't know, that sounds almost Orwellian. Where the great leader can come to everyone's personal cell phone and tell us how he feels. And I don't know if that's true or just a bunch of bogus. I don't know.
I don't know enough about it, James. I don't happen to subscribe to Twitter, so I'm guessing it might be connected with there. I guess if you subscribe to Twitter, you could see those messages on your cell phone. But anyway, the answer is I don't know, so I won't speculate.
I don't know either. I just someone was talking about that today. Anyway, I'm going to talk to Rob. Now, Rob, I know you try to keep abreast of what's happening in Washington. I know we got the Kavanaugh hearings up there. That's something that's on everyone's mind, or a lot of people's mind. And I think it's what we call kabuki theater, where they're just making lots of noises and shadows and nothing really of substance to it. But what is your viewpoint on it?
Well, for the first time yesterday, I think for the first time in my life, and I might be mistaken, but certainly in recent years, first time ever, I sent a message, and I sent it to Chuck Grassley, the Iowa senator and chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I said in my message, if you don't clear the Kavanaugh nomination out of the committee by next week, I'm going to be very, very upset. And if Judge Kavanaugh is not confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court, I will not vote before the election. I will not vote Republican. Period. So that's a message I sent him. And so it's probably not as the result of my message, but it does appear that the Republicans have a little bit of spine, because at least by late last night, the chairman was saying that there's going to be a vote, whether or not Mrs. or Dr. Ford turns up with her rape testimony or not. It doesn't make any difference. Well, you didn't say it doesn't make any difference, but there is going to be a vote next week. So the Republicans have had enough of this Democrat shenanigans, and I'm pleased to see that. Now, after I sent my message, I thought, oh dear, I can't really hold to that. I'm not going to vote Republican if these things don't happen, because I, for one, am going to vote for Ron DeSantis and Rick Scott no matter what. I'm just going to do that. So I guess I sent an untruth.
Well,
but I really am pleased that the Kavanaugh thing seems to be going in the right direction here.
Well, since you brought up DeSantis and everything, tell me about the governor's election, what you're seeing out there, because I'm hearing everybody, well, not everybody, I'm hearing a few polls out there saying how Gillum is leading DeSantis. I'm sitting there going, wonder where they take those polls at? I'm sure they don't take it up here in North Florida. It must be down in South Florida where they take those polls, because I haven't found anyone in North Florida that, well, I shouldn't say anyone, very, very few of the people I talk to have encouraging, positive remarks about Gillum. It's usually just the opposite.
Well, yeah, I think the mess that he's left in Tallahassee and the investigations going on there really speak to his lack of. Well, first of all, that's as to integrity, honesty, and so forth. But I don't think, aside from that, I don't think the guy is capable. Besides that, I think he's a socialist. You and I are on the same page in terms of what we think about his fitness for office. James, I don't know what to think of polls. We all go back to the 2016 presidential election, and all the polls were showing Hillary was going to get it. They didn't know what they were going to do.
Right.
And I'd like to think that they frame their questions and do their sampling on a more equitable basis, whatever that is. I don't think they do. I think it's might be part of a Democratic strategy to show more strength for the Democrats in polls, and maybe they think that helps their cause. I don't know if it does or it doesn't. But I will be extremely pleased in November to see Gillum go down to defeat, as well as our friend Senator Nelson and other people. I don't know what those guys have got going for them, and I also do not understand how polls give them the strength that they do. And I don't know.
It does make you wonder.
Shouldn't be any polling 30 days before an election or something like that.
It does make you wonder how they come up with some of the questions. Kind of like, have you stopped beating your wife yet? Going, okay. Either way you answer, you're doomed. And that right there. But I have seen a lot of negative people saying things negative about the Republican, the Democrat. I'm sitting there going, hey, yeah. But I do know that, in my mind, DeSantis, may be a Washington insider. But I know that in order to be governor, you better know a little bit about what's going on in Washington, because that's where the states get a lot of their monies, because we have to beg to get our monies back, if I'm not mistaken, because we've talked about that before. Like road taxes, that's another thing. Those things get sent back to the states, and they can be withheld. And I know that we have an interstate system that, well, it's not a bad interstate system, but it could be better. I'm sure there's, every time I travel to visit my daughters, there's usually construction going on. Things are being done. So it's an always never-ending job keeping the roads out there taken care of, whether they're done by Republicans, Democrats, whatever. Everybody talks about my roads. But I'm to the impression that DeSantis, it would probably be a good fit for Florida. I may be wrong. I would like to see the laws when it comes to conservation, such as what they voted for a few years ago, to buy land to keep it from being polluted and to clean up Lake Okeechobee down there. That seems to be a major problem that everyone's kicking around, and no one seems to be figuring out what the solution is, other than the fact that they've kind of mucked it up with the Army Corps of Engineers, allowing them to do what they've done. And I really don't know if there is a solution down there. I really don't know.
Yeah, there was a big thing on the news just in the last day or so about a whole bunch of demonstrators causing Rick Scott to have to duck out of an appearance because they were complaining. You mentioned Okeechobee, and you're aware of the red algae thing going on down there, at least in Southwest Florida.
Yeah.
And but I don't, if something was mucked up and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is involved, I'm not sure what it is that the state was supposed to be doing or had authority to do.
I know.
To the extent the feds are involved, so I'm not really sure where the responsibility lays there. But I certainly do hope that Governor Scott, even though I haven't seen the polling on where that whole deal goes, I'm certainly hoping that he knocks off Bill Nelson in the Senate.
Well, the way I look at it, everyone talks about term limits. They say, do you believe in term limits? And I said, well, I believe in term limits at the ballot box. I believe if that's where term limits need to be, because if we have to force people to be stepped down, which we do in the state of Florida as governor, you have to run 2 terms, and same thing in the legislature, you can only run so many terms. And that's one thing that is, and it's a two-edged sword. In a way, it's good because they get someone else in there, but sometimes the people we get in there are just as clueless as the people that I don't know, it seems like the people we got out were better shaped than the ones that we got in there. But I don't know, but term limits really ought to be in the ballot box. I don't think they need to be mandatory, but that's just my opinion on it. People may disagree with me on that, but it's like if you don't like a legislator, vote him out of office. Because most people think their legislators are the greatest thing in the world, and when it comes to re-election, because a 90% re-election on people running for office in the state of Florida. Or just about everywhere. If you're an incumbent and you're running, normally you have a very good chance of being reelected into office. But I really think, in my opinion, term limits should be at the ballot box. It shouldn't be mandatory. But that's just my opinion. I may change my mind in a couple of years. I don't know. But what's your opinion? Go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure that I agree with you, and I'm not strong enough to know I disagree with you. But here's the case for the other side. There's 2 parts to it.
All right.
You mentioned that incumbents usually get reelected, and they do. 80 or so percent of Congress gets reelected every cycle. So number one, they've got name recognition. They've been pumping out information, newsletters from Washington for a couple of years for their supporters and all that kind of stuff. So everybody knows what the name is. And when people go to the ballot box, too many of them aren't thinking, oh, there's a familiar name. I know him. Must be okay, or her. And they vote for him. The other thing is money.
Oh,
and I don't know that we have a solution to that. But 2 years ago, when I ran against Neil Dunn for Congress in this District 2, He spent $1.7 million on his campaign.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the Federal Election Commission reports.
Right.
I spent 1% of that, $17,000.
Woo.
Not very good at fundraising, I guess. But the point is, how do you, over the 19 counties, all are part of which are covered by District 2,
Right.
how do you blanket all that with $17,000 and get your name out there?
It's hard.
So if you are talking about term limits at the ballot box, it does tend to favor the incumbents because of A, name recognition, and B, the machinery of the two big parties, the duopoly, in terms of being able to raise money. It's a problem, and I'm not sure that we are served by the lack of term limits, even though I do take your point that you don't need some numbskull in there who has no experience. And but that assumes that there's a lot of stupid people around who run for office. I shouldn't say there's a lot of stupid voters. Anyway, I'm not sure I agree with you on that point.
That's
but
okay.
I think it's further discussion.
It's okay. It's a pro and con on both ways on it. But I do admit that election season seems to bring out the best and worst in politicians. I will say that. You see the best in them coming out, and you see the worst in them coming out. And it seems like every couple of years we have the election. It is every couple of years we have the election cycle, midterms or whatever. But it is interesting, and I'm looking forward to see how it turns out this November. And I really believe, kind of like that country song says, everything's going to be all right. I think it's just going to be fine out there. I think we're eventually going to muddle through all this, and we're going to be stronger and better no matter what happens. That's just kind of like in business. I really believe if you endeavor to persevere, you will do well. You just got to keep trying. You just can't give up. And that's what the American people.
Well, I share your optimism, and maybe it's just blind faith, but I do have faith in our future. And when I say I have faith, I also have my fingers crossed as far as the November election. So we'll have to wait and see.
Well, we're going to find out. That's what makes America so interesting. We can change so quickly. I've had people say, well, what makes America so great? And I've had people ask me that before. I said, well, the thing that's amazed people over the years is the ability for America to change on a dime, like World War II or 9/11 or World War I.
No.
I mean, I'm just talking about where people pull together, and they can change just like that if they want to. But we can also be divided vehemently like we are right now, and I really think this is going to pass. I really think that we're going to start realizing that, well, hopefully we'll start realizing if we don't start working together, well, as Ben Franklin says, we don't hang together, we're all going to hang separately. Well, that's kind of what's happening, I think, right now. We're slowly hanging ourselves, but we need to work together and figure out the problems we have, whether it's school, whether it's elections, whatever we got. Mainly, we've just got to talk to each other without screaming at each other and not listening. That seems to be the biggest thing. We talk and don't listen. Maybe that's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as
we do need to do that, but I'm trying to think when in our history we actually have done that. Sure, there is a groundswell of support after some major event like 9/11 or Pearl Harbor or something that galvanizes the country. But it seems to me over the span of history, those times are more often overshadowed by bickering, and I'm not sure. But I think it seems to be in our DNA.
It may be that independent spirit, that can-do independent spirit we all have out there. But when it gets down to the final cut, we need to make sure that we pull together. Or, like I said, if we don't hang together, we're going to hang separately. All right, I've got to go. Thank you so much for calling, Rob. Look forward to hearing you again next week. Give my best to all your dogs and cats over there. And
if you want the best deal in town for tires, you need to call Baytown Tires at 873-8900.
Hanson and the guys at Baytown Tires take pride in serving Panama City for over 20 years. Baytown Tires on Highway 98 in St. Andrews. All service work backed by a nationwide warranty.
Water is too powerful to fight alone. Mr. Router Plumbing. Sink, shower and toilet emergency drain services.
Part of what I'd like to let you know is what we do and how we work our system. Basically, we've got about 700 stocking dealers scattered around the 15 counties here in the Big Bend area of the state. I run a fleet of trucks, vans, and what we call hotshot vehicles to deliver to our dealers quickly so they can help service you as fast and efficiently as they can. Provide timely and efficient service, and we're there to take care of our dealers who in turn can take care of their customers.
All right, good morning, everybody. Back to our second half of our show on Thursday morning. I got Frank Sundram calling today. He calls once or twice a week, and you just never know what's on his mind. He is from NPR and National Public Radio, and sometimes some of the ideas he comes up with, I just kind of, well, I never thought about that. And maybe that's why some people listen to NPR. Good morning, Frank. How are we doing today, sir?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, let's see. We're missing something today. We're missing lots of things. We're buying cars, and things on cars are disappearing. Can you think of two things that are disappearing on cars?
Yes, cigarette lighter's one. You do not find a cigarette lighter on a car. A new car does not have a cigarette lighter. What's the other thing I've found disappeared on a car? Ashtrays. There's no ashtrays.
All right.
Those two
That's
things.
two. We got some more.
Okay, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. What's another one you can think of?
Handbrakes.
Well, you talking about a foot brake for emergency brake or parking brake? Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about? Okay.
Yes. The handbrake with the lever and
Okay.
the foot brakes, they're
Yeah.
going away. They're now going electronic.
Oh, that's true. We have a little button we push, and you're right. That's true. It's not mechanical. It's all
Yeah.
electronic.
And the old ignition switches with the keys, they're sort of walking away too.
I think you're right. I had 10 cars I had in yesterday. I had only one that had a key. The rest of them were all push button. You're absolutely right. I didn't think about keys. That may be something that I didn't think about. That keys may be going away. Period. I bet you, if you get rid of keys for your car, what's next? Your house key? They're
going away too. If you look at the number of electronic locks that are on homes these days.
Yeah. I didn't think about that. I did not think about that. So we're losing keys, ashtrays, cigarette lighters. Well, I know we don't have carburetors. We hadn't had those in a long time.
Spare tires are going away.
That's something that's been going away for a long time, spare tires, because we've had those temporary spares. And they don't even put temporary spares in them anymore. They give you 2 cans of Fix-A-Flat, and they say, here you go. That's not going to help you if you got a tire cut in half. So spare tires going away. Jacks are going away, of course. So that reason they get rid of the weight. For every 100 pounds they get rid of, they can get 1/10 of a mile improvement in fuel. I think that's kind of the rule of thumb for every 100 pounds. That's what an engineer was telling me. So we don't have spare tires, and jacks are going away. We don't have ashtrays and cigarette lighters. We don't have, what was the other thing we're talking about? Keys. Trying to think of some other things.
And handbrakes.
And handbrake. Now, I know we have handbrake. We have a mechanical actuator, but it's being actuated by your finger by pushing a button, not pulling up on a lever by hand. We still have a, quote, parking brake. And so cars still have parking brakes. They're just applied differently. They're applied usually by a push button.
Yes.
Okay, what's another thing out there I can think of? Gas caps. Did you know that some cars don't even have gas caps? Did you know that? First time I went to rent a car, I rented a 2016 Dodge Charger, and I went to the service station to put gas in it, and I looked back there, and there was just a hole. I pulled the lever back, the cap back, and there was just a hole there. When you pull the cover back on, it helps seal it off. But I'm like, where's the gas cap? And when I took it back, they said these cars don't have gas caps. That was my first experience to gas caps, them not having. And I just thought about that. I don't know if that's still out there, but some cars don't have gas caps. They don't have spare tires, gas caps, keys. They don't have a manual emergency brake or parking brake, cigarette lighters or ashtrays. What's another thing they don't have? I know they got more things on them that they've ever had, were blindside collision avoidance and where they'll park themselves. Backup cameras. They put a lot of other things on there electronically, but those are some of the things I can think of that we grew up with. Another thing that cars aren't coming with is standard transmissions. They're not. They're. If I am not mistaken, I read a report a couple years ago. They estimate, I want to say by this year, there are no cars. I may be wrong. That are being made with standard transmissions because they can get better fuel mileage with the 6 and 8 speed automatic transmissions or constant variable transmission, CVT transmissions, than they can with standard. And that's what they're after.
We know Porsche makes them. We know that Mazda makes them for the Miata.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine Audi makes them, but fewer and fewer all the time.
I want to say by 2018 or 2019, they say they're going to stop making standard transmission. Volvo is going, by 2019, starting in 2019, all their cars are going to be electric or hybrid. They are not going to be just an internal combustion engine alone. They're either going to be an electric car or they're going to be gasoline with hybrid assist, if you can believe that. I mean, that's what Volvo told me. I went, "Are you kidding me? I think they're leading the pack on that." And then I heard a commercial on WPAP last night, coming home, and they were talking about how how people need to get in an electric car because electric cars are quick acceleration, cheaper than you think, and easier to maintain. So that's another thing that's coming, electric cars. Yeah. That's the first time I've ever heard a commercial, and it wasn't particularly talking about a name brand of a company. It was kind of like a public relations commercial just to get in an electric car. It didn't say Volvo or Chevy or Ford or Honda. If I'm not mistaken, it just said electric cars.
Mm-hmm.
Go to because I think just about all the manufacturers are making electric cars now. I may be wrong.
Well, it's reasonable to assume that Tesla will soon be taken over by somebody. And my bet, if they're awakened and listening to us this morning in Detroit, as they should, Ford would be the natural place for Tesla to go.
You think so?
And because there's a lot within Tesla that aligns itself with Ford better than any other manufacturer. But here's the thing.
Okay.
That cars are coming up. There are some electric cars out there, notably the Nissan Leaf. Which depreciates like a rock. I mean, if you thought a Jaguar depreciates, check out a Nissan Leaf. You can buy a 2 or 3 year old Nissan Leaf for a third the price of brand new. And then that's not a bad deal for an in-town car.
No, it's not. It really isn't. And now, the bad thing about Nissan Leafs are they don't have a large range. What's the range, 100 miles? 120?
Well, a little bit over. Yeah, I think they're getting to about 200 now, the latest iteration.
Yeah.
But, if you're going to run around town,
That's
can
perfect.
go to almost Destin and back with that 100-mile range.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I wouldn't want to drive it to visit my daughters in Daytona Beach or down in South Florida, but if you have one that, like a Tesla. Now, Teslas have a range. I want to say the Tesla battery, if you keep it around 55 miles an hour, 55, 60 miles an hour, you can go almost 300 miles on a Tesla before you have to recharge. I may be wrong, but it is a big improvement. And that is the key, is batteries. I was talking to someone yesterday about my tiny house. They said, I can't believe you can come up here, turn your air conditioning on, your well, all that runs off batteries and solar. And what do you contribute it to? I said, I need more batteries because I got solar panels out there to charge up the batteries, but I need more batteries. I need about twice as many batteries as I have right now. That way, instead of going just 4 hours, on batteries, I need to be able to go 8 hours on batteries because it's amazing how much power pumps pull and all these things, and you've got to have cars have to have batteries, and that's the secret. If we have an effective battery, what's the most effective battery out there right now? Lithium ion? Is that what they're saying?
The lithium ion for right now. There are some rare earth batteries out there that are actually doing better, but they're just so expensive.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
And a lot of the materials come from China, and as you know, things between the U.S. and China and trade are not going well, and Chinese are holding back on leverage, which is, by the way, why you are seeing all your little earphones for iPods, the prices skyrocket.
Ah, because they're made in China?
Because the rare earth comes from China.
Ah, I did not know that. So these little batteries they're making come from China. They're kind of expensive. Is that what you're saying?
The materials are there. Batteries and earphones, all because they use the same materials in the magnets and the plates.
Mm-hmm.
are very expensive. And then with all the trade stuff that's happening in the last year or so, the prices of earphones, go to the store and buy a set of cheap earphones. There's no such thing.
I bought a set of earbuds for my grandson for Christmas, and that was like almost $200 for wireless earbuds. I went, wow, that's kind of expensive to give to a 12-year-old, but my daughter assured me he needs them, and he still got them, which, if you can believe it, I talked to him the other day, and I said, how's your earbuds? He said, I'm talking to you now on them. I went, okay, apparently he's had them, 9 months. I'm impressed.
I need to get on your Christmas list for sure.
Well, if you were my grandson, it works out.
The sign for the day, you know how they have signs for children going to school and crossing?
Yeah.
Very soon they'll have signs, drive slow, children texting.
Well, right now, I see that all the time. I saw kids walking from the school yesterday. There must have been 7 of them. Every one of them had their cell phones out, or smartphones. They were all walking in the same direction, but they were all looking down. I'm going, if a car came across the road, lost control, it'd kill all 7 of them all at one time. I said, they have no idea what's going on. And I don't know, maybe that's just a sign of change, but gee, it is kind of disconcerting when you see people staring at phones and not talking to each other as they walk together. That's kind of like, wow, scary.
Well, I might have mentioned it to you before. I remember these young kids on a date sitting next to me in a booth someplace, and they were texting each other.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
And my wife what was your reasoning for them doing that, Anne Marie? We talked about that.
Well, I said it could also be that they're texting other people. I know a lot of people sit and play games while they're waiting on their meals. Oh. And it looks like they're texting, but they're actually playing a game.
Well, I know a lot of adults now that are playing online video games. I asked one of my shop foreman the other day, I said, what do you do now in your spare time? He says, I play online video games. I said, really, how's that work out? He said, well, you play with other people on your team from all around the world. Y'all don't know each other other than, what you're on the present, and y'all work as a team. And I go, really? And he said, yeah, that's what you do. I said, that's interesting. I had no idea. But he said, yeah, it's kind of addicting, because you find out you work better as a team, and if you don't, you get killed in this game or whatever. And I went, interesting. But these are things that adults are actually doing too. This is a 44-year-old man playing online video games. To me, the idea of playing video games at 44 years old is kind of like going, why do I want to do that? I don't see the attraction. But maybe if I got involved with it, I probably would see the attraction. I don't know. I just don't know. I'd rather play with bees instead.
Oh, that's what you need, another addiction.
Yeah, I need another addiction. Right now I'm addicted to honeybees. Well, that's enough.
I know, and this probably will tell you all that about me. I will go to my grave. On my grave will be chiseled that I never kept up with the Kardashians, that I never played a video game, and I never watched the Real Housewives of any place. I'm very proud of those 3 things.
Well, I've never watched the Game of Thrones. Someone the other day said, are you part of the 1% that's ever watched the Game of Thrones? I went, I have no idea even what you're talking about. I don't even watch TV.
I am aware of it. I tend not to watch series television, though I will tell you I have watched The Crown, and I'm looking forward to watching the 2nd season of The Crown, which was just amazing. Partly because there's a small familial connection between me and the players, my family and the players, but that's about it. I don't know. I mean, I do keep up with the news. I do keep up with the weather. I am literate with automobiles, and I'm comfortable with that. Someone has to keep track of all the stuff that we're paying for on cars that we're not getting anymore.